Welcome to Sweeping the Country one more time. I'm your host, Derek Walker. Along with me, my co-host, Mr. Jimmy Carter. Hey, Jimmy.
Well, a lot changed since we talked last, right?
I should say.
You know, it's because this thing has started, like people stack dominoes and dominoes fall, dominoes fall, dominoes fall.
Yeah.
And boy, they're falling.
Yes.
And you're seeing it at CNN. Chris Wallace, now, he was on election night. He's not there now. He's gone.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick. And there's a bunch of them that are getting chopped left and right. But where do they go? Because the other night we're watching TV. We're just sitting on the couch, and there's Brian Williams.
Yeah.
And he's coming back. Is it that?
Yeah, he's come back for that night, but there's really nowhere else for him to go.
That's what I wonder. Where does Chris Wallace go?
Well, that's not true.
Okay.
I mean, if they wanted to go down and become local anchors somewhere,
okay,
but they'd be paid fraction of what they were getting at the network. So the days of those big fat salaries for a large percentage of people on television is going away.
Okay.
I mean, $3 million for Caitlin Collins, really, on CNN, $6 million for whoever else, like Aaron Burnett. I mean, these people are good, but they're not $3 and $6 million good.
I would agree with that.
I mean, they're good, but I mean, it's just they're not. That network is only bringing in like 700,000 or 800,000 people now, and that's not the kind of salaries you can pay for somebody to get, that kind of rating. It just doesn't work out that way.
Yeah, no, you're right, 100%. I've thought for a long time that they've been overpaid, but you have people like,
well, you don't want them going to somewhere else, and that's the whole thing.
Yeah,
but you're seeing it's happening. I mean, and I'm not blaming. I'm just saying it's a fact that the newest generation of adults, they don't do anything pretty much like the generation before did.
No,
and that includes 50 years of broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
Radio, television, everything is completely different. I think that we are perilously way too far in love with the internet. It's from just a national security basis. The whole country operates. Your internet goes down, and you're everything. I mean, some people who have gone the whole distance control the temperature in their house and to control their thermostat with the internet and everything. I don't do that.
I've tried it, and here's what I find, and I think it's interesting what you just said, because I've thought about this a lot. We put a lot of trust in something that isn't really 100%. In fact, it's really not even 75%. I mean,
we've got a whole country running off of something that still a lot of people in this country don't have any. There's not fairness involved.
No, I agree with that. I agree.
There's not. Poor people. Poor people often get cable and often do things that probably they shouldn't do with the money they're making, but they need something for entertainment because they can't do anything else.
What if we look at it just
what they're thinking with that?
Yeah,
I get it.
No, I get it, 100%. But I mean, just from a functionality standpoint, it's like, I'll search for something online and I don't quite get the right answer, or I don't get the right information, or I turn on my car and all the warning lights go on, and I feel like it's not quite. I mean, we've got a lot of eggs in one basket.
Well, we just took that basket and turned it upside down.
Yeah, we did.
A lot of the reason is maybe not the internet was not really one of the issues, but then maybe it was that people are just not, number one, they weren't ready for that mandate of the electric car.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't ready for Star Trek, Fleet Federation type of wokeness.
Yeah.
They just weren't there yet on a lot of things. And they were being moved at warp speed to those places.
Mm-hmm.
And the open borders thing, just not practical.
Yeah.
You can't load a whole country. We have an economic situation where we all try to have a decent life. As many people, the majority of people do. There are a hell of a lot of them that don't, but there are a majority that do.
Yeah.
And you bring in people from these third world countries that are in abject poverty. So what are they going to do? They're either going to get on government dole. Some of them are able to find work.
Mm-hmm.
because they're uneducated, so they're able to find work in labor positions,
Mm-hmm.
from the chicken places, plucking places, to the hotels. And that's where the first number of people went, and they're still there. And they're doing work that nobody else wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
But you get more than that coming in, particularly people who are not good people who have come in, migrants who have come in that are ex-cons or current cons and bad people. And you can't bring in every child and every criminal and every person in this country, because our hospitals, you've seen them buckle
Yeah.
at what's
Yeah.
going on. You've seen our schools, public schools, just about be ruined because of it. And so what do people do? They flee to further outside the city. They go to private schools.
Mm-hmm.
They do all that stuff, and they run away from it. They don't try to solve the problem because they can't. It's a bigger problem than they are. So they flee. So what has happened? People get fed up because they see quickly that their jobs were being lost to the electric vehicle. Ford was all in building whole cities near Louisville, near Memphis, whole cities that
Mm-hmm.
were going to be built to build the car. And they were quickly seeing that they were going to abandon the gas engine, in Detroit and a number of other places,
Right.
and go all electric. And Ford was doing it to beat the band. I mean, they were going. And people said, we're not ready for this. We can't do this. And some people, like, for example, the rent-a-car people who were in bed with some of the bigger people.
Yeah.
I know a member of my family rented a car, and he got screwed up because it ran out of charge and he couldn't find a place to charge it. And no one wants to do that. People
Right.
are not
Right.
stupid. And they knew that's what was going to happen to them.
Hmm.
So you say, well, Elon Musk is all in bed with Trump. What about Tesla? Nobody wants to put the electric car out of business.
Mm-mm.
There's a place for some people that want it, but it's not for everybody to want it, because the power grid can't take it. We haven't come up with any way to make more electricity, it seems, because we've got it so regulated and so screwed up. Nobody wants to build a hydroelectric dam. Nobody wants to have an oil refinery in their city, much less
Right.
their neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to do all the ways that they don't want to have any coal mines. They don't want to have any coal. So what are we going to do? We're going to put a bunch of windmills and some sundials, and that's not enough. They
Well, you can
supplements, but it's not enough to do it. So
Jimmy, you forgot one
so
thing.
no,
Sundials, windmills, and this. You cross your fingers and you hope that there's
yeah,
enough wind, right? I mean, obviously, it really is obvious to most people. There is a place for it, but we're not at a
see,
point.
that's where it's all about the money again, though.
Yeah,
They,
okay.
they put billions into all this. So the people who make those engines for the windmills
Yeah,
and make the windmills, they made a lot of money.
sure they
And
did.
the trains that transported them, and the whole industry behind putting those things up. But
Ugh.
they're inefficient. They don't do enough. They're a nice little deal. They can power a community or something. And in some places, it's very practical because the wind doesn't stop blowing
Right,
in places on the
right.
California coast and all that stuff. But you've got to do things that make some sense. And we had gotten an energy policy to where they didn't make sense. In the defense area, people were beginning to not be scared by us. So you've got people willing to take some chances. And you've got some do-gooding people that just didn't understand, when you're dealing with the bullies, sometimes you got to smack him in the nose. And you can't just say, well, you're a good guy, we're going to read the Bible. And I mean, it doesn't work that way around the world. And
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't work that way in the Middle East. It doesn't work that way in these communist countries. The only thing they understand is strength. They don't understand anything else. The other things have been tried and they don't work. Now, right now, you've got Russia really moving in on Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
They're bringing in the top line troops from Russia. They're using the North Koreans, and they're pushing. And even the people that understand this a lot say, they're trying to get it all done while the Biden administration is dilly dallying, and they want to get it done before a new team arrives in Washington, and Putin wants to get all this done while he's dealing with Biden and not really dealing with Trump.
I don't
And
doubt that for a minute. I don't doubt
so
that
he
for a
knows
minute.
that things are going to be a whole lot different
Yeah.
out there when Trump gets in, because they know he's a loose cannon at times, and he's not completely predictable.
Mm-hmm.
But they know exactly what these people are doing up there now, and it's not acceptable. We've got all kinds of challenges going on, everything from North Korea putting troops. Trump wouldn't have put up with that. I mean, again, Trump's not going to be able to solve all these things, but they are scared of him to a point.
Yeah.
And that's no one's scared of Joe Biden.
No, I haven't even. The first
Joe
time I,
Biden's not scared of Joe Biden. Nobody's scared of Joe Biden.
I'm more scared of Jill than Joe. The first time I've seen Biden since this whole Harris running for president thing was for Veterans Day. That's the first time I've seen him.
He was able to do some things, but people see him, and they know they were lying. They were not telling the truth when they thought he was okay.
Yeah.
I mean, they've
know
known for a year or two that he's gone down, and it's not pretty, and it's sad actually. And I think if he was a great man, he would have quit and given the job to Harris at several different times.
Yeah, I wonder why that didn't happen.
He's got too much pride. He's too big an ego.
Man,
too big an ego, and that's going to come out at some point. You'll see.
It has to. Yeah, it has to. No doubt about it.
But it's just you've seen the people; they're already getting appointed. The Democrat Party is doing the circular firing squad, which happens after you lose an election this big. They're all just blaming each other. They're blaming Biden. They're blaming this. They're blaming that. The Hollywood people know that they went out real far on a limb, and the limb got cut off,
snapped,
snapped. And I think there's been a real rejection of a lot of the far left people, particularly in entertainment, late night and stuff like that. The country, the people that run these businesses can't completely go around and ignore 51% of the population.
No, and that's exactly what was happening.
They've been doing that, and that's why the numbers of the late night shows are minuscule compared to what they used to be.
Yeah.
And the networks are failing because, people are tired of, just the other night, this is amazing to me. This shows you where Hollywood is totally just, they're crazy. On the Paramount Network Yellowstone, the F word was dropped a number of times. Okay, they're getting really loose with that word. That's still not an acceptable word, and a broadcaster can be fined, and serious things can happen.
A lot of money.
You use it on radio and television, but they don't count. See, this is where we all got goofed up a couple of years. We don't hold cable to those rules,
which I don't understand. But okay.
Now, on Paramount Cable the other night, and I can't watch but one thing at a time, so I was watching on Paramount Cable. I'm not even on this broadcast that has no such a rules. There was a sex scene on the show, if you watched it.
Oh, no, I did not watch it yet.
On a laptop computer. Did you see Yellowstone?
I have not watched the first episode. I'm dying to, but I haven't seen it yet.
Well, it's on Paramount Network. You wouldn't see it if it was CBS you watched or anything else.
Yeah.
It was an X-rated, triple X-rated sex scene for 2 or 3 seconds on the laptop in clear view.
Really?
Yes, and I've never seen it. Certainly has never been on television, and it's never been on a widely seen program like that was seen by 6,
like
8,
you're
10,
talking
12,
R-rated level.
I'm talking X-rated. There is no rating on Paramount. This was I can't describe what it was.
Okay.
It was wow.
Yeah.
Kind of scene, and lasted for that long.
Okay. All right.
So, but their morals and their values, who think nothing about doing that, 7:00 at night Central Time, on a absolutely available channel that children could be seeing. Well, parents ought to watch. Well, they don't always control that.
Yeah, that's true.
And particularly on that hour. It used to be called the family hour. But no.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's just the value. We're in a culture war. We've been in a culture war for a long time.
That is a good point, though. It's kind of coming to a crescendo, I feel
is.
And you're right.
And the woke thing is gone, all these things have gone too far. And people finally said, we don't like Trump, but he is a straight shooter as far as plain spoken. He was a plain spoken person. Even though we don't like his character, we can't go with these people because look where they've got us. And look what her vision is. She never answered a question.
Yeah, there was no vision.
There was no vision.
Yeah.
I'm totally fine whatever she said about Joe Biden's reign of power. There's nothing I would change and all that. So all those things mounted up and
Hmm.
people, now, was there some racism, sexism, and other things in some of that voting? Probably.
Yeah, sure.
But,
There always is.
I think if you compared the two, I think people were ready 10 years ago to elect a black female, Condoleezza Rice.
Hmm.
I think if she had run, she would have been the first black female president, without a doubt.
Well, you and I have said over and over on this very podcast that Michelle Obama would have won. There was
She
no.
could have, I think she would have, yeah, but if you noticed, she kept quiet
She didn't
during
say a
all this.
word. Yeah, what?
And she did go out toward the very end, maybe made one speech or something,
Hmm.
made no difference.
No, I really thought she was gonna pick up the reins and run, and I think had Kamala not been so placated by the media leaning left and said what a great job and how she's doing so great in the polls and all
Well, they
this,
did it because they hate Trump.
but
And
they kind
that
of
was everything.
backfired.
It wasn't that they had great ideas or anything else. It just wasn't Trump. The
Yeah.
media was all in. It wasn't Trump. We hate Trump.
Didn't
We don't, they don't, you ought to hear in the last week, the CNN, and I've listened to several of the other people.
Yeah.
And they're just, oh my God, they said that one of the things I heard some guy say on one of the CNN shows the other day, and it wasn't challenged a bit. And one of the things that Trump is going to do, he's going to tell China, you can just take Taiwan. I don't believe that for a minute.
I don't either.
I don't believe it for a minute.
I don't either. And Jimmy,
And
I'm open.
They say anything. They just think anything is okay to say if it's, and this is where Biden went wrong. On the first day of his administration, or first day and a half, as fast as he could do it, he signed 94 executive orders
Hmm.
because he just took the assumption that all these people did, that if Trump did it, it must have been bad.
Well,
So they just wanted to reverse anything that was Trump. And that caused the gas to spike. That caused all that to happen, which caused the prices to go up and everything else. So, it's just, there's what they call it, Trump derangement syndrome.
I've not heard that, but I do feel like that the left leaning media imploded on itself. I think they actually caused some of the problem with this election and lost it.
It's
Perhaps.
rebellion. I mean, it got to they cried wolf for so long about everything.
Yeah.
That finally after a while and so
God, it's a great way to put it. I mean, you're right.
It just cried wolf for so long, and then people are I'm tired. I mean, before Biden got in there, I was paying $12 or $13 for mostly a pretty good lunch.
Hmm.
Now I'm paying $23
Ridiculous.
on an average.
Ridiculous.
And it's ridiculous. And it's just ridiculous. And that's all because of gas prices went to wherever it went. I don't even remember how high.
Yeah, it went way up there.
But
Yeah.
it went up and diesel prices are still high.
Mhm.
And how do you get everything in your life? It comes to you on a truck.
Right.
Everything comes to you on a truck. All your food, all your milk, all your water, everything that you buy at the store comes on a truck.
Sure does. Yeah.
And that truck is paying the highest fuel cost, diesel. And, it's just, you get what they had to raise their prices.
Well, and I also think, like you talking about all this stuff, I think the average American, we all feel it in our wallet, right? We feel it at the bank.
I can't imagine you don't.
You do.
Except people that got millions and millions of dollars.
Those are the people.
care.
Those are the people that don't feel it, but they're also out of touch with the American people to a certain
These
extent.
are Hollywood people. These are all multimillionaires.
Fascinating.
And it's easy to be liberal like that when you don't have a problem
Yeah.
of finances. But people that are worried about, their retirement or their job,
Mhm.
I mean, look at the regulation or lack of, and the communication policy in this country is gone, and you've got just about, all these things are going down. And
Yeah, you're right about all of that. I mean, you're right about all that. We have a group called the baby boomers. You know how they put us all into categories now.
Yeah.
Baby boomers, Gen Xers, Gen Zers, whatever. But you've got a group of people that's a large quantity of the population that are still alive, the boomers, and they're concerned, right? So they're going to vote that way. You know that. I mean, I don't know if they even look at it that way, or they just look right and left, but maybe look at age.
again, it was a close election. It certainly was.
Yeah.
But it was close. Not in some places.
Hmm.
It wasn't close. But again, I don't, there are those that believe Trump can walk on water and all of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm not there.
I am not one of those. I
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in the way he acts sometimes, but in most of his policies, I mean, he look at the appointments he just did. Marco Rubio, he's the head of the Senate, and he's the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Hmm.
He is more versed than just about anybody that he could have picked to do that job
Yeah.
in the State Department because he understands what all's going on and what the threats are to the world. Excellent pick. He picked the governor of I guess she's South Dakota, isn't she? Kristi Noem,
Oh, yeah. I
to
think
be
it's
the head of
South
Homeland Security. She is a smart, tough person.
Mm-hmm.
She's tough. And you need somebody tough to be in Homeland Security with the challenges that department's going to have, redoing the Secret Service
Yeah.
that needs to be done, rejiggering the Border Patrol and the ICE people,
Mm-hmm.
and all the things that's going to be under FEMA and all those things. They're going to have to build, it's going to have some things that are going to be ugly to some American people. But you got to do, you got to get these gangs and stuff. You got to get them first.
Mm-hmm.
Those people got to get out of here. And just to be able to get the gangs out, I don't know where they're going to go, what they're going to do with them, but they're going to have to build some private security prisons, which will be done by private people because government can't do it.
Mm-hmm.
And people like the Corrections Corporation of America or people like that are going to get the jobs. Now, I don't know where in the world you're going to get prison guards and stuff like that from, but you're going to have to use high-tech techniques to cut down on the people needed to run a prison.
Yeah.
Simple as that. They've
Yeah.
got to get the people element out of the prison. It's too dangerous and it's crooked
Mm-hmm.
because people are running around with cell phones in there and drugs and everything else. You've got to make it where they're fed and where they're safe, but you've got to keep people out of this as much as possible.
Yeah.
And we need high tech in that area and quit worrying about electric cars so much. We need to be able to make people's jobs easier, particularly if they're in a dangerous line of work.
I agree. We've talked about this before, but the triage system of attacking a problem is how you have to go at this. And I know everybody knows that. It's hard to do that, but that's how you have to do it. You can't
And you have to
satisfy
do it
everybody.
fast in this case because, and you've got to do it like an octopus.
Yeah.
Because you only have a new president, I don't care if he's Democrat or Republican, really has less than 2 years.
Yeah, I was going to say 2 years. Yeah. Max.
Not even 2 years because that's congressional elections in 2 years.
Max.
You really only have a year to really make an idea of what's going on. So I think that the Russians are going to try to do whatever they're going to do, and the Ukrainians are going to meet whatever they're going to be,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to have some kind of bloody crescendo to this story, and then it's going to I think, calm down.
I hope
because,
so.
If it goes crazier with North Korea all getting in there and they try to take more land, then NATO's going to get involved.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to have to get more involved, and it's going to get really bad because you're going to have to take out some of Russia's top forces, which I think you can do, and it's going to be bad.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't want to do that, and I don't think they want to have to deal with Trump in that area. It's not smart.
Yeah, I think that's the legit.
The Middle Eastern thing is always a crapshoot, but he's going to need to get that under control.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get the military modernized, and then we can't be doing these one-way tickets, where no one's giving us any money for anything.
Yeah.
And I think Israel pays their freight, but Ukraine's been a waterhole. That's why that does. We've tested a lot of good weapons there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But we're helping them with all kinds of strategies and intelligence, and we've been doing all that.
Yeah,
but that
we've replenished some of our weapons here to the modern stuff,
Yeah,
so that's
and
good.
So we've got a lot of things we need to do. He wants to build an Iron Dome over this country. I think we're way overdue on something like that. Not with China growing and growing and growing all around the world. If people knew where China, and we're not educated because our media is so biased
Mm-hmm.
and so awful at this point, and we've killed every newspaper in the country just about.
Yeah.
And if you don't think Chinese love that, you're crazy.
Yeah.
They love the fact that we're an uninformed people.
Mm-hmm.
People don't realize how in South America, how ingrained that the Chinese have gotten in some of these countries, and some of the ways that they've done. Mexico is another thing with the way they bring people in over there in New Mexico, and how they are building these Chinese electric vehicles over there, and that's the stuff Trump wants to put a tariff on, and he should. We shouldn't allow those to flood the market
Yeah.
because they would flood all the American stuff out for sure, but can't let that happen. So I don't think that will happen now. But there's just a lot of, you got to do the immigrant, you got to do it all. You got to do it all with the same.
Let me ask you something. You're 100% right. Do you feel yourself, I mean, and you comment or you don't comment, it's up to you, do you feel slightly more optimistic?
Yeah, I feel like
I
we're
do.
going to. I mean, I think we were spinning our tires at best
Mm-hmm.
in the last couple of years, and I think we were more and more moving the dial over to, this whole, the country. It's not our biggest. Well, as we found in the election, because of the media being not, they're not your enemy. That's wrong, but they have misled the American people into thinking that abortion was the biggest issue facing us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you did anything from voter outsourcing, you found out it was number 4.
Was that intentional, do you think, in the media, or do
I
you
think
think
that's
it was
just what their interests were.
okay?
I mean, you can't speak. I mean, these far liberal people that run our media,
okay.
and that's what they are. They're far liberal people,
Mm-hmm.
and even people who are the reporters, they more lean to the left than they do the right. I've never quite understood that, but they do.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, yes, the women's rights issue is a big issue.
Yeah, I agree.
But it wasn't the biggest issue.
Mm-hmm. I also
The
agree with that.
economy was the biggest issue. The second was immigration, because it's so out of control, even seen by anybody.
Mm-hmm.
We've flooded the court systems and the prisons and everything else with all these migrants, and the laws have been just avoided. And then you saw, they were not going to let Trump get back in, and he's still not in yet. So let's hang on.
Right.
He survived 2 assassination attempts, and I believe there were so many people watching this election that no one could really do too much monkey business. I think they got bright, and watched all that, so that couldn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that you had people that woke up to some things about immigration, about the economy, and said to themselves, do we have hope that this is going to get better with these people in charge? And they said no.
Yeah.
Their issue was, remember, they sold them on this with all this rhetoric that Trump is Hitler and he's going to take over the government,
Mm-hmm.
and he is every bad thing a reprobate, and he was a felon, and he's this and he's that. And people have seen that, yeah, he might have done some of this stuff, but doesn't it look like they're doing piling on? American people are fair at the end of the day. Did it look like he was being treated fair? No way. No way.
Yeah, you're right.
Documents case or anything else. So maybe there was some legitimate stuff in there, but it was on top of that was piling on. So people say, well, we can't figure out what is right. It just looked like they were doing anything they could to take him out, put him in jail, do whatever.
It really did. Whether you were for or against, I mean, unless you just hated him so much, doesn't matter.
And that people did too.
And there were those people
so much. And remember, people, if you put, very few people put up Trump signs or Trump bumper stickers or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
Very few, and even in red states where I've been. But there are some people that put up Harris Waltz things, 3 in my neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Why did they do it? I think to poke you in the eye.
Yeah.
To show you they weren't scared of doing that, and they were having their right to do it, and I totally respect that they did it. But it was done to poke you in the eye.
Interesting.
In a totally red area, they had no chance of winning.
Yeah.
And they wanted to do it to poke you in the eye. And now we've got people, and there was somebody, I know one of my family's things said, it was on social media, if you voted for Trump, it said, take me out, unfriend me, do whatever you got to do, because you're not my friend now.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of that. Yeah.
And there's been a lot of that going on. And people listening to us that were fans of if you can't listen to the truth, which I think I've said the truth. I don't think I've said.
I agree. No, I agree.
And I'm not a big Trump fan. I'm not. I mean, but I surely wasn't from Joe Biden. I don't think I'm really disappointed in the system that he's not been declared unfit.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I would have been able to live with Harris being president, and he stepped down at some point a year, 8 months, 9 months ago.
Yeah.
Because he didn't need to be up there. and if Trump
Yeah.
gets that way, I hope they kick his butt down
Doesn't it
and
feel
put
like something was broken with Biden? I mean, not him, but the system. In that, no one.
cover it up. Absolutely
Right. I
cover
don't
it up.
understand that at
And
all.
Pelosi and Schumer and all the rest of them,
Yeah.
they just didn't have any answers of what they were going to do. So they hated Trump. Their blind hate for Trump was so bad
Yeah.
that they couldn't see another way around it. They
Gosh.
couldn't see an answer. And then they panicked and pulled it and pulled her. In fact, he might have even beat her because I think he would have gotten the unions more. I think he wouldn't have run into the sexism and the racism. I think he'd have won.
Wow.
He'd had a good chance of winning, better than she did.
That's interesting. That's interesting because I look at the whole thing and I think had Harris not polled so well at the beginning, we might have been looking at another Democrat running against Trump, the Republican. We might have, but she
It was
polled.
a false flag. People were so excited that it wasn't Biden. And so that 1 week or whatever it was that they thought she was the best. And it really, in Trump, I think everybody was on that side was very concerned about that because it looked like, oh my Lord, what have they done? They have pulled a rabbit out of the hat. But then as time went on, when she did no interviews, when she cackled a lot, when she said she was trying to get trans surgeries for all the people in prison, when she said she had no problems with Biden, all those things.
Yep. Baby steps right on down.
They lost.
Yeah, no, you're.
But they still
you're
didn't
right.
elect, a bad, like for example, this Carrie Lake in Arizona. She ultimately failed. She was a bad candidate. I don't care what anybody says. She was a bad candidate on the Republican side. The Gascon guy, DA in LA, got booted, and the mayor of San Francisco, I think, got recalled. Even people there have had enough of crime and bad things going on. You can only push people so far.
I think that's the key. I really do. I think that's the key because I think sometimes, and that shows that the system, as far as the voting and the electoral college and all that, still seems to work, right? I mean, it still functionally works.
We'll find out, and and Trump's going to get, he's going to have the opposition, on his butt the whole time.
Sure,
but hopefully, I mean, what he's going to do.
But it seems that
talk seriously to the Middle East. He's going to talk seriously about Ukraine. He's going to talk to the little rocket man over in North Korea. He's going to talk to China that's got economic issues, and they don't want any more tariffs than they've got. And if he goes after them, then they're going to hit him in the pocketbook. They got economic problems over there.
Yeah.
And then as far as immigration, I don't know how in the world he's going to deal with that. I'm sure there's some crazy ideas that are going on.
Yeah.
But I know we don't need to let anybody else in. That needs to get stopped, and he's going to have to talk pretty seriously to Mexico.
Yeah, you're
maybe
right.
Try to get these folks jobs or get them whatever maybe that are here, but just don't let any more people in like that. That don't, make that special immigration continue with people like college degree so and so and so and so.
Sure.
Let those people in easier. And I don't know. It's so many things that have got to happen. A lot got to happen.
It's a big job. I mean,
we got to look at energy and look at all these department heads are going to be important.
I agree. I agree. And surrounding yourself.
Get an energy policy that we've got to go to smaller nuclear reactors like people in Europe have done, which I think Musk and others, they know about it in the space program because these things are all working off of small nuclear reactors. On the Navy's been doing it for years and safely in all our carriers and boats. I mean, we got to get moderned up in the energy and stop this foolishness. And yes, if there is global warming, okay, we can't do it by ourselves, and we can't pay for it by ourselves. With China dumping in more stuff in the atmosphere than we could ever dream of if we were trying to dump stuff in the atmosphere. So you got to get the world doing it. We can't do it by ourselves, and we certainly can't do it throwing out all the gas engines. It's just going to wreck our economy more than it is, and can't do it. And so we got to put a pause on that, and we got to do some other stuff and get the things that are wrong, and people want those things fixed. Man, I don't think prices though can drop. The only way prices can drop if he can get that tip thing through, if he can get the tax taken off of Social Security for people that are on Social Security, not have to pay that tax, which is hundreds of dollars for most people. If you can drop the oil price down to 160 or 70, that'll make things cheaper. But I don't think I don't know how in the world you're going to get people to roll back prices except through competition. Because
That's
I don't
how.
know
Yeah.
how you lower the price of milk because we have consolidated the dairies to a point where there's not a lot of we don't have a lot of competition and stuff. So we've got to get the law people out again and look and say what are monopolies and see if we can break up some of these monopolies
Hmm.
and bring fairness back in to the business world.
Yeah, and competition does supply and demand
Yeah.
changes the prices too.
So you've got this whole thing about about what we're doing here in podcast and the Joe Rogan thing that really was, I think, probably was one of the keys to the election,
I
and
would
some of
I
the other
would
podcasts that are out
agree.
there.
I would agree.
Those that's the new world because people trust them. They trust Joe Rogan because they think he's telling the truth or telling both sides of the story, which is not what they're going to get on the nightly news that's out there.
I think they trust the Joe Rogans and you and I and people like us because we aren't network news, and network news has become somewhat untrustworthy, or the big CNNs and all that. They've become a source that isn't trustworthy. So who do we turn
They
to?
tell lies. I mean, if I've said something here that's I don't think I've told, maybe they think they don't telling lies,
Maybe.
but maybe they don't. Maybe they're true believers and stuff. But I think most of it is really, and there's people that hate Trump.
Hmm.
They hate his business because they hadn't paid bills in some cases, and a bunch of other things like that in character. I mean, it's again, he's not the perfect person at all. But again, they can't deal with his ego and bragging and all that stuff. But man, you see somebody that gets shot and he stands up and puts the fist up.
Yeah, he's
That won him a
resilient.
lot of votes from a lot of people.
He's resilient as heck. I mean,
He
the
is. He
skin
is,
he has on his back is very, very
and he's
thick.
a hard worker, and we just don't see any of that from some of these other people. And I
Yeah, I'll
think you're
give you
going to
that.
have some tough times for people who are younger if these corporations do demand they go back to work
Hmm.
in the office. And I just don't think this country is in a good position if everybody works out of the house. I don't think all in all that's a good thing.
I would agree with that too, and I think there's a whole group that hasn't done it any other way though. So
No, that's right.
you
And
know,
so you've got to be gentle about it or something. But we just have a lot of cultural issues. I think a country that has no religious value and no faith, I
hmm,
think problem. We got a big problem with that because we've seen certain corrupt religions and other things that have gone on. People have lost their faith in them.
yeah, it's
I
true.
think people that we've got a police problem. They're understaffed. They're underpaid. You're not getting the best of the best to be police officers. We've got a lack of patriotism
Mm.
for whatever reason because we've not passed it down, or I think a lot of it is that we haven't been threatened.
Hmm.
We've been really lucky since 9/11. We really haven't. We've put it out, but we haven't had a reason for us to not be nitpicky, squabbling with our neighbors.
Hmm.
We've got to get crime under control where we can't go around confiscating guns, but we're going to have to do something that assures people that do bad things that bad things are going to happen to them.
Consequences, yes, I agree.
Consequences. We got to bring back consequences in our society. Trump can't do all that.
Yeah.
Parents and other people are going to have to do it, but you're going to have to clean up the systems. You got to clean up the prisons. You got to clean up the police departments. You got to clean up, the military and the waste of money that goes there. You've got to not have people, in companies do bad things. You can't get rid of OSHA, and you can't have bad water, and you can't have bad air,
Hmm.
and that stuff. So if Republicans screw off and let bad water, bad air, and let employees get abused and cut out some of those things, which they're accused of doing, they're going to be out on their butt in 2 or 4 years.
Hmm.
Because people aren't going to put up with that either. So you got to get Boeing straightened out. They're too big to fail. What in the hell is wrong with them? How did they get so
God,
messed
as
up?
of late, you're right. I mean, it's
How did
just.
they get so messed up? What is the root cause of that? You need to put somebody, there need to be big hearings about that because
Hmm.
they're a mainline part of our economy
and our defense
our
system.
defense system and everything else. We just got a lot of stuff to do, and I just feel like we've been too busy doing touchy-feely issues and climate control and all this kind of stuff, which are pie in the sky 10, 20, 30 years down the road when we got problems today. Those today problems get slipped by.
You just made me think of it because my wife and I did this yesterday. We made a to-do list of some important things that had to be done, right? And toward the bottom of the list was the stuff that's probably not as important. But if we do have time and we can resources to do it, let's do it. But these top 10 things or 5 things we've got to do today. We got to do them today. And I think that's what we have. We have a giant to-do list in the country. And I don't know if anybody's checking off anything. So it'll be interesting to see how the Republicans attack it.
Government employees that are screw-offs that probably don't need to be there, but they're going to be there. So some way we got to keep the permanent class of government employee under control where they can't sabotage Trump.
Yeah.
And which they tried to do last time, and that has happened before. So you can't be weaponizing the Justice Department for Republicans or Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
They need to be following the law. This whole attack on the Supreme Court is wrong.
Boy, that's a whole nother show. That's a whole nother show we could do right there.
And it really is. It's wrong to do it. And if they try to do it where the Democrats were going to pack the court, nobody was, and a majority basis was all for that.
Man,
do you need to put somebody up there that's not a zealot on the far right? Yeah. You need to have somebody that's fair, that's a justice, that's not up there that's black or white or Jewish or however we're judging people these days. You need judges that are fair.
And for those that do not listen, for those that do not know, Jimmy, your dad was a judge, so you got firsthand experience with that, right?
I don't even get it out, but my father was the judge on the Martin Luther King income tax case that is in all the textbooks, particularly at black universities.
Wow.
And Martin Luther King was found not guilty. And he went to my father after it was over with. He came up to him and said, I never thought a black man could get a fair trial in this court, but I was wrong.
Wow. And what a
it's about
great
being
story.
Fair in Montgomery, Alabama in the 60s. You think that was popular, being fair?
Probably
not at all.
Yeah. Wow. What a great story, and a great way to bring it all together. I will say I have hope. I have hope that
I do too. I have more hope than I did 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
But I'm also concerned that the negatives will try to take him down before he gets the chance to do certain things. And it's not popular what some of the things are, and I hope they really protect him because, man, he's not popular with the Iranian people, with the mullahs, and he's not popular with some of the people that are in the gangs and the crime and the criminals,
right?
And the people that are just far left loons, as Bill O'Reilly used to call them. And he doesn't need to be given right-wing nuts, anytime either. I hope he doesn't do too much to be, I don't know. I just hope he doesn't go too far. That's what I'm hoping.
Well, good stuff, as always, right here on Sweeping the Country. Until next time, I'm Derek Walker. He is...
I'm Jimmy Carter.
Good day.